well, welcome back to my art desk, everybody. So today I am going to once again show you how to draw the green bank telescope, and we're going to do it as a loose drawing. So, first things first, we're going to draw the dish of the green bank telescope. So, to start off, we are going to draw just a thin, wide oval. And it doesn't have to be perfect because the green bank telescope is in a lot of different angles all throughout the day. So you can make it in any position you want. I just figured this was one of the better positions to actually start in. So this is going to be the inside of your dish. Now the green bank telescope's dish is a little concave. So to give it that illusion, we're going to draw a thin, long trapezoid underneath it attached to the oval. Make this line at the top edge here just a little bit longer. Alright, so now that we have our dish, we are going to draw the arm of the green bank telescope, which has the subreflector attached to it. So we're going to draw a line at the top edge of our dish here. Make that a little bit shorter. Then we're going to attach another line to it to form a triangle. Now on the other side of this line, you're going to draw a bit of a taller line and form more of an open triangle. And make sure this edge lines up with the top edge of your telescope. So, like I said, attached to the arm we have what is called a subreflector. Now the subreflector is actually a small dish on the top of the telescope. So we're going to draw a small hook. And attached to that small hook we're going to draw just basically an upside down version of our big dish here. Make sure everything's attached together because we don't want our telescope falling apart. Alright, so this next part is going to be a little hard to describe. So, if you just want to follow along, just going to be doing more lines. This is a line drawing at this point. Man. Can't draw a straight line today. Alright. Alright, so there you have the structure underneath the green bank, the dish of the green bank telescope. Now underneath this part is a curved structure, almost like a horseshoe-like structure, called the tilting axis. The tilting axis is what helps keep helps the dish move back and forth. So it's just a curved structure, nothing too fancy. We're gonna make this a little thicker later on when we start adding details. But this is basically what that tilting axis looks like. So this is the basic line drawing of the green bank telescope. Alright, so now that we have our telescope drawn, we are going to move to the landscape, at least part of it anyways. Now, if you've ever been to the Green Bank Observatory and you have noticed there are a bunch of pine trees around the observatory, they are there on purpose. They actually act as a natural buffer for noise around in surrounding houses, around the area, or even from cars passing on the road. So we are going to be drawing a bunch of pine trees in our landscape part. So if you've never drawn a pine tree before, it's quite simple. I'm going to give you a little bit of a guide to go by, just in case. So, to draw a pine tree, we're going to start off with just, again, vertical line And that's going to act as, you don't have to make it a trunk, but it's going to essentially act as your trunk. So on this trunk, you're going to draw a few horizontal lines, each one being bigger than the last one. This is going to act as your guide for your pine tree. So after that, you just kind of want to draw like squiggly zigzag lines on the way down, and once again, very loose, nothing fancy. And there you have a pine tree. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw pine trees all over. I'm going to go ahead and draw in my pine trees. So come back in a few minutes and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so now that we have our pine trees, we're going to go back into our telescope and we're going to draw the crossbeams in our telescope. Now if you've seen the telescope before, there are a lot of crossbeams. And if you, as the artist, want to spend the time to make sure, get those intricate details in on the crossbeams, feel free to do so. But I'm going to show you how to make those crossbeams without spending a large amount of time on it. And we're going to do so by what is called the cross-hatching technique. Now the cross-hatching technique is usually used for shading, and a lot of shading. And so what you do is you just make a bunch of hash marks. As you can tell, I've done it here already. You make a bunch of hash marks, and then you cross them by doing the same thing. Now, like I said, this is usually used in shading, so if you want a darker area, you would want your lines to be a little bit closer together. And if you want a lighter area, you would draw them farther apart. So, while this is usually used in shading, today this is the technique we're going to use to make our crossbeams. So we're going to start out underneath the dish. So I am actually going to want this side here to be just a little bit darker. So I am going to go ahead and put those hash marks in. Alright, and there you have the crossbeams underneath your dish. So now we're going to do the crossbeams on the arm, which are a little bit different. So, going to connect my arms, a couple horizontal lines, and then we're going to go back in and make those crossbeams. Now I'm going to add a few more just to give it some depth and the illusion that there are more crossbeams there. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Add a few up here as well. And then we're going to be doing the cross-hatching underneath in this structure, part of the structure. Once again, I would like this area just to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to make sure that is a tad bit darker. Now that we have the cross beams underneath our dish, I'm going to add just a few in here as well with our tilting axis. If you add the legs of the telescope underneath. And there you have it. You are done with your Green Bank telescope. There's a few optional things you can do with it. If you've ever noticed in pictures of the Green Bank telescope, or if you've seen the Green Bank telescope in real life, you'll notice that the edges of the telescope's dish are pretty jagged. So I'm going to make them just a little bit jagged. Again, doesn't have to be very detailed, doesn't have to be perfect. Place that there, and then I am going to put a few hash marks in there to make it look like the dish actually has panels, which there's 2004 panels on the Green Bank telescope. So now that I have got that finished, I'm going to go back into my landscape and draw the mountains that surround the Green Bank telescope. If you've been to our area, you know that we are surrounded by the Allegheny Mountains. So, not very hard at all. Really, this is almost just a line drawing, really. And draw a bunch of curved lines overlapping each other. Add a couple more pine trees. And I think I'm going to add some stars into my photo, to my drawing here, photograph. And there we have the Green Bank telescope in a nightscape. So now that I've got this drawing finished, I am going to add some ink. You can keep it like this if you want to. I'm going to actually use some ink to shade my drawing. And so we'll see what it looks like in a few minutes. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I hope you had fun. Again, make this drawing your own. Add your own creativity. You can add color if you want to. You can make it as detailed, as non-detailed as you want. We can't wait to see your submissions for the art contest. And with that, I hope you guys are staying healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.